Well, I have another part of the puzzle from the old 11 passenger, and this actually involves how these bodies physically attach to the undercarriage. The one that's closest to me here is laying on its side, but it is actually the right side. Well, these irons here go underneath the main frame of the body, and you can see there's also a step that helps the passenger step into the seats. This other frame came off of the left side, and if I can stand it up a little bit, you can see how this might set. And there are some braces that go up to the floorboard to keep this stabilized from rocking side to side. And this being off of the left side, I had removed the rear portion of this brace because I needed this iron to help me configure the woodwork in going up to that back curved framework. Well, underneath this framework there is this iron bracework, and you can see there's a remnant of a bent piece of wood that would have gone clear up to the front and also curled up. Well, this is what is known as the rocker, which sets on the leather thoroughbraces that is the suspension. So while everything is still attached to the remnants of this old framework, I can get my measurements of how long this rocker needs to be and how much curve I need to bend the ends. So between the iron that comes down underneath the rockers, and here we are about 45 to 46 inches, that's relatively straight. It may have a slight curve to it, but overall we are about 6.5 feet. If I try to measure that maybe a little more accurately, our actual wood is probably going to end up being 6 feet 4 inches. Kind of right in that area. I'll probably bend it a little long so that I have some room to trim, and you can see it tapers down to this point here. Well, this is 1.5 inches thick, and this iron is 2.5 inches wide. So our wood also needs to be 2.5 inches wide. So if I try to put a straight edge where I think the main body of this would be, it looks like our curve needs to come up about 5 inches within about 16 inches. And maybe 4 inches on the back side. And I'd say this 4 inches here probably needs to occur within about 14, maybe 13, 14, 15 inches in there. So it's a little bit shorter and a little shallower. So before I actually dismantle this, I want to mark out how I think this is going to be. So the back side of this rocker is going to be about in this position, and you can see the joint work here to where it is the vertical frame that goes into the rear seat and the joint work for the rear curved frame onto the straight main frame. So we need to be kind of in this area here, and if I go forward from there, so here's the joint that goes into the curved framing that goes up to the driver's seat. So we are about 3 to 4 inches ahead of that. What I want to find is the placement of these irons as they're going to go on to the 8 passenger. So there is a little bit of difference from this joint forward on the 11 passenger than there is on the 11. From that joint forward to this front of the framework on this 11, we are 22 inches. And from this joint forward on the 8 passenger, we're actually 23 inches. So there's an inch difference. But I'm still thinking that front framework for that rocker should be located in this area here. So even though I'm going to disassemble this, I'm still going to have location of my bolt holes that will tell me where they go up. But I want to take these apart, run them through the sandblaster, and get everything cleaned up. So this is the right front, and I want to keep those distinctly that direction. This will be the brace that will come up to the floorboard. So I want to keep these distinct front and back, right and left. So I have all my rocker irons cleaned up, and this is all that is left of the rockers, just the tips of both the fronts and the backs. Now I mentioned I want to keep these distinct between front and rear and right and left. And the reason that I want to keep them distinct is mainly because of the bolt patterns. You can see how my bolt patterns are opposite between a right and a left, and on these as well. They're just opposites. So when these go together, these actually have to match up. And it's the same on the rear. This is the iron that goes underneath the body. This is the iron that goes on top and actually sandwiches that frame together. You see these bolt patterns have to match up. And then this rocker iron was actually going to come down underneath like so. And this bolt pattern also has to match up for this right side set of irons. If I were to get these goofed up, you can see how that bolt pattern doesn't work. That's why I want to keep them rights and lefts. So these 4 irons here are the braces that come from these towers or posts up to the floor of the body, and I have all 4 of those. But these clevises here saddle the leather thoroughbraces. And I have the one for the left rear, and I have one for the right front. The other 2 were missing. So if I were to do kind of a quick mock-up, this one is going to go here. If I look at my patterns on my old wood, from this leading edge forward to the next iron is going to be 5 inches. It's a little tough to reach a clamp into there. These rockers are going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to put an 1.5 inch spacer in there and clamp it down here. So this top heavy frame is kind of designed to go right up against the toe of this rear frame. And then this bottom iron has to match this 3-bolt pattern there. So that's going to kind of tell us where this position has to be. And then these two holes have to line up with these two holes. So that's going to put us about right in there. So I need to turn this clamp around, get it out of the way. Use this iron, this 3-bolt pattern has to match this 3-bolt pattern. So it's going to set right about in here. So when we get to this point, these will actually line up. I'm not quite there yet, but this is just kind of reconstructing the placement to where all these go. And again, this will have an 1.5-inch wood rocker. I'll actually set it in about this position. So theoretically, I should be able to double check my measurement. It goes right to this corner, up to this rocker. The clamp's kind of in the way, but kind of get a quick guess. I had guessed at 6 feet 4, and we're right there at 6 feet 4. So my assumption was I could take these irons and bolt them onto that 8-passenger and kind of get a feel for the length of that rocker. But you know, when I made the patterns for this 8-passenger 30-some years ago, I also have a piece of plywood that I drew out the templates and the measurements for all these irons directly off of an 8-passenger. So the question is, are they really the same? So this is that piece of plywood that I marked all my measurements out and actually drew out the patterns for these irons. This is the main outside iron that goes underneath the frame, and these are the 2 outer rocker irons that would correlate with these. This is the rear rocker iron that goes on the left side, and this would be the front rocker iron that goes on the front on the left side. And as I examine these against each other, this angle is pretty close, but you can see we are off on this angle. If I line that curve up, not only are we shorter on the 8, but this bend here is different. And if I line up the curve on this one, again, our iron on the 8 is shorter, but this angle and these bends don't match up. So this outside iron, I have it noted here that this is the top, so it would actually be this direction. And you can see how much shorter this iron is from the 11-passenger. The curve right there, if I put the top on top of this pattern here, our curve is very similar, except we're about 3.5 to 4 inches. We're actually shorter on the 8-passenger. So that pattern for the curve might work well, but evidently the lengths are different, and the lengths are different and the shapes are a little bit different between the patterns off of this 8-passenger compared to the 11 that I actually have here. So on the other side, let's see, this one is the rear, this one is the front. I got to keep these straight. On the other side, I have these marked out. This is the rear, which is going to be this one. The height is different. Overall shape is similar, but we're about 1 inch difference in height. And if I take the front one, we're also a little difference in height, but this case we're maybe 3/4 of an inch, little difference in spread. Angles are somewhat similar, but not exactly, are they? So So there seems to be a difference between an 8 and an 11. Then I also drew out the heavy iron that goes inside that would correlate with this iron. I'm going to turn this around and try to keep everything straight. This goes to the rear, this one goes to the front. The shape of this inside iron is actually really close. But you notice I have it marked out that this is 1/2 by 3, where this is 1/2 by 2.5. And when I have done these older coaches, when they are 3-inch, this is where the upright frame goes to the rear seat. Because it's extra wide, they notch that out to go around that frame. Whereas using a 2.5, it sets inside that frame and doesn't have to be notched out. But generally overall, the shape is correct. We're probably 1.5 inches shorter, however. My measurements for these irons are the same as on the 11, 1/4 by 2.5, and that's what these are here. So that is the same. I'm going to leave this one the same, which will be 1/2 by 2.5 instead of 1/2 by 3, so I don't have to cut out this notch. But I think I'm going to use this pattern here to make my irons to mount up to the frame to get my measurement for the wood. I actually have those measurements written down right here. I have them at 1.5 inches thick by 2 inches wide, which is what the 11 is. The length before they are bent, 61 inches. The length after they are bent, 58.5. Tapered down to 3/4 inch at the tips, which is just what these are. This also gives me the location of where these thoroughbrace irons go, which is right there. And here I have TB thoroughbrace irons, 1.25 by 3/8. We're on these 11 passengers, 1.25 by 3/8. So I guess the plan of the day is going to make new rocker irons for this 8-passenger, but instead of using these for the patterns, I'm actually going to use this set of patterns that I documented off of an 8-passenger 30-some years ago. Well, give one a try. See, that's a 90. We're past 90. This is a little bit different bending jig. This was a Rick jig and he's not using it anymore. See how it works. Well, this needs to go a bit further yet. Well, this is the first one. Actually went a little too far on this one. So I'll heat that back up. So I decided to start over. I'll put this width where it needs to be, and if I'm extra long, I can trim off an end. That's pretty close right there. Right there. I'd say that fits just perfect. But can you see the problem? I'm not going to get these two bends underneath that bending press. Well, I use that solid table press most of the time. But this is one case where I really need that open underneath it. So I'm going to come to my 50 ton. This is a Bailey. And then I can fit both sides underneath and get those bent. I think I'm actually going to come from this side, since I'm mostly right-handed, and try to get this to work right there. Now this is air over hydraulic, so it moves pretty slow. A little more yet. Yeah, I went just a little too far. I'll have to straighten that out just a fuzz. Well, we'll go with that. I need to do this side. Again, I went just a little far. Not bad that time. We can straighten that out. Right there. I'd say that puts us right in the ballpark. My 20 inches was actually just right, coming right at the end of my marks. I think that'll work. Well, this one actually is going to go on the rear, somewhere in this area. Just a matter of figuring out the sequence of the steps, huh? And that's just part of the fun of figuring it out, is figuring out the process. I think I'll continue to use that 50-ton press so I can get in and around that bending jig. The left one should be the same size and same style. The whole pattern is just going to be different. So I'll keep picking away at it. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.